now recognize Mr. Larsen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Some questions for the panelists. I'm not a lawyer. I presume from Mr. Williams to Ms. Huey to Mr. Hawkins, you're not lawyers as well, so we can maybe talk at that level. But I do want your opinion on the law. First for Mr. Hawkins, and maybe you don't have one, maybe the Farm Bureau has an opinion on whether or not you expect the Supreme Court to write a new test in the Sackett case if the government loses and the proponents win. What's your expectation?
Okay. Well, I would certainly hope that we
I'm not asking what you hope.
I think that the arguments that the American Farm Bureau, that the Sackett family have put forward are very compelling arguments. I would say that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you expect, though, the Supreme Court will write a new test? They could decide for Sackett and not write a test. They could write a new test. If they don't write a test, we have uncertainty. If they do write a test, you don't know what it is, and I don't know what it is, and that sounds like uncertainty.
It is uncertainty. That's why we've said no SCOTUS before WOTUS. Or no WOTUS before SCOTUS. Sorry, I got it backwards.
I understood what you meant. Ms. Hugh, sort of the same question does it for the home builders. What the position on that is? What do you expect if the proponents win? What do you expect?
Well, I'd still love to hope. But
we're in the hope business up here, but we have to actually make decisions sometimes based on what we know, what we don't know.
Yes, sir. I agree with my colleague. If we could have, it's the uncertainty that is the problem for us. I deal with codes and everything in construction that gives me a clear guideline for how to build a house.
Yes, sure.
But this does not. We need the certainty and the clear rules.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, talk over you, but if you don't get a test out of the Supreme Court, if the proponents win, then you don't have a test, and we're left with uncertainty.
Uncertainty, yes.
That's kind of the point I'm getting at. I mean, the argument about certainty really doesn't fly. Mr. Williams, we talked yesterday, so it kind of teed you up a little bit on this. Do you have does the sand and gravel folks have a view on that?
We believe the Supreme Court will be able to offer a clear definition of what is jurisdictional, help us to create that line that says what is relatively permanent, what is not under federal jurisdiction but should be under state jurisdiction.
As clear as Scalia and Kennedy did in 2000 and whatever it was?
We believe they can come up with a clear definition this time around.
Thanks. I'm making my point. You guys get it. I'm making my point on this one. Mr. Owen, is it a fair assessment? I'm thinking through about this issue, how we kind of leave it to the states to fill the gap when the Trump-era rule came out to fill a gap on clean water. Doesn't sound like that happened. Is it a fair assessment that there's little evidence the states had uniformly to come in to fill the gaps created by the Trump-era rule?
So there have been some moves in a few states to fill gaps, but no across-the-board movement, nothing close to it. And it's understandable. Like it's essentially an unfunded mandate for states to come up with water quality programs to backfill what the federal government had been doing, or at least an unfunded request because they don't have to do it. And the states don't have the resources. They've been relying in many cases on a partnership with the federal government to protect waters and not developing their own programs. And so it's not an easy thing for them to do, and we shouldn't be surprised that they don't do it.
Yeah. Look, as a former county council member, I support Clean Water Act, support clean water, support having the EPA involved, but I also understand that there's a frustration with uncertainty, and I'm just saying, thinking back when I was on the county council, trying to make some decisions as a local elected about what's certain and what's not certain on land use. I mean, I get where you're going through. I'm not arguing that houses aren't great and food isn't great and we don't need sand and gravel. I'm not making those arguments at all. I'm just concerned that we're not going to get what anyone wants out of the Supreme Court, because I just don't know. Unless they become an activist Supreme Court, which I presume we don't want out of the Supreme Court. I thought they weren't supposed to be activists, and they move forward and write a test. And so I just think we're headed towards a more uncertain future. And with that, I have no time to yield back.